Okay, I paused it. I couldn't do it. I paused it. I put my phone down. They weren't drunk. They were quite civilized. They were just hanging out. Sorry about that. So 2 girls who were watching this, who were on the swings, I'm sorry, you weren't drunk. You were just hanging out on a Saturday night, which is perfectly reasonable in a park. I'm the weirdo for sitting on a park bench making freaking YouTube videos. Anyway, where was I? The idea isn't that, so we're praying horizontal for your enemies. It's kind of bringing your enemies. The book goes on to explain that as by saying you kind of bring your enemies into your heart. When we pray, and I want to do a video on prayer because I think it's very misunderstood as well, but when we pray, it's kind of this deep. Remember I mentioned the book of the Psalms? It's this. All the Psalms are this kind of very, very deep, raw human experience. They're written by somebody who's very, very in touch with how they feel, whatever those feelings are. Anger, pain, lust, greed, sadness. So when we pray, we're digging very, very deep into our souls, into our hearts, into our conscience, and drawing things out to present to God. Now, God already knows what these things are, but it's part of this relational aspect to bring them to God. Now, when we pray for our enemies, we're inviting them to participate in that, and it's a very disarming practice, and it kind of humanizes our enemies. It makes us meditate our enemies, and it's a very, very difficult thing to do, by virtue of the fact that they are our enemies, and more often than not they've wronged us before we've wronged them. Now, one word which I didn't use yesterday, which this author uses, is the word impulsive. That's what the whole point of yesterday's video was, talking about the impulse to return hate with hate, to return wrongdoing with wrongdoing, to make things fair, because we're interested in fairness. We want things to be fair, to be equal, to be balanced. That's just kind of what we believe, how we believe the world should be. So when someone wrongs us, we actually think it's right to wrong them back. It's fair to wrong them back, and fairness is right. But the message of the gospel, which is the message of Jesus, is that that's not, the rightness isn't fairness in that sense, and that we are to take the hatred, the abuse, the wrongdoing, and not return in kind. Because hate is a cycle. Most would agree that hate is a cycle. There's a saying, hurt people hurt people. It's the same for hatred. Hate is a cycle, and it keeps going and keeps going, and it can often kind of whip itself up into greater and greater fury, often based on fear of the other person. So what Jesus asks us to do is to take that hate, somehow absorb it. The Bible would say using exclusively God's strength, God's grace, God's love to help you do so, to absorb that hate, and to not only not move beyond a position of neutrality for the person you dislike or dislikes you, but to actually participate in a prayerful response for that person. And in so doing, you break the cycle of hate, which humanity is kind of seems permanently stuck in. And the Lenten period moves towards the cross, which we'll speak about more, but the cross is when Jesus absorbed a tremendous amount of hatred and violence and suffering, and ended that cycle by saying, by actually praying, Lord, forgive them for what they're doing. So I don't know if that clears up what I said yesterday. There's some untied loose ends there, such as more stuff to do with prayer, more stuff to do with the cross, more stuff to do with Jesus. But that the idea that I was getting at yesterday was to reject this impulse to return hate for hate, meanness for meanness, revenge for revenge, and instead choose an active love in response. And loving, as a quick aside, might expand this tomorrow, but we have a duty to do that, to change. We have a duty to change our response to hatred. and to change ourselves. We cannot expect the world to change. What we mean when we say we want love is the answer, people should love each other, is we always mean we want other people to change. We want other people to love each other, because when every single person in the world is perfect and loves each other fully, I don't need to change. I don't actually need to change if everyone else is perfect. So when we make this cry for love and for peace and for harmony, what we're doing is we're crying out for the world to change first, so I don't really have to. And there's been many wise thinkers throughout time who have responded to that with the greatest evils in the world are inside of us, right? They're not out there, they're inside of us. And we have to change before we can expect others to change. And through our changing, that's how the world will change and will improve. So after all that, a report on my Lent seems rather trivial. It's not going well in the sense that I'm waking up at sunrise still, but again, just like, to be fair, this morning I woke up early at sunrise and I immediately just grabbed my kid because he was in such a good mood. That counts. That's a Lenten practice to receive and to give joy with another person, especially your 6-month-old kid. That was okay. But it meant I still didn't read anything or pray myself or participate in any kind of spiritual disciplines or relational activities with God. Unless enjoying your son is a relational activity with God, which I think it might be. Still haven't spent any real money, yada yada yada, still doing the videos, except the videos are getting tough, for like I said at the start, because they no longer come from a sense of I have something I really want to share. They come from a sense of I have to make a video. So I don't know if, this is day 11, I don't know if I'll be able to keep going for 29 more days if I'm not going to do full justice to the videos. But we'll see how that goes.